That alone, verse number 78. There is no death or birth or existence. Man, gods, and all such are name and form. What exists is like the water of a mirage in the desert. It does not exist. This should be remembered. Commentary. This verse can appear totally meaningless to those who are caught in the thick of life and who have many obligations to fulfill. It says right off, there is no death, but everywhere we see things that are perishing. Dead leaves are falling, paint peels off the side of the house, people are dying. Decay and death are on all sides, but here it says there is no death. It adds that there is no birth. Death is a consequence of birth. It is an effect which comes to something that exists. If you claim there is no effect, then you should turn to the cause. You die because you are born. If there is neither cause or effect, there can be nothing in between. Because of this, Narayana Guru says, there is no existence either. Why does he make such a summary dismissal of everything? In the previous verse, we came to a unitive vision. In it, all experiences were placed in the flux, in the phenomenal. In and through the changing flux, we were invited to have a look at the changeless. Now in this verse, we are shown a vision from the viewpoint of one who sees the changeless. What seems to be here has only a transitory existence from this perspective. The Guru likens this to the water seen in a mirage. In the desert, people become more thirsty than they do anywhere else. Water is not just something beautiful and enjoyable. It takes priority. It becomes a necessity. That object of your desire may appear to be before you, but when you try to walk towards it, to quench your thirst, it recedes. It always looks like it is within your reach, but you can never get to it. This is a very good metaphor for existence here also. Narayana Guru takes a very uncompromising position. He says the mirage should not even be called existence. The term is misleading. The temptation that comes to someone who enters a spiritual path is to hold onto the desires of the mind while seeking realization. He will make many rationalizations to justify the cravings, trying to cast them in a spiritual light. But there comes a point in life when you have to take a drastic step. If you don't take it yourself in a philosophical manner, eventually nature will provide the example of the inevitable termination of life when the body perishes, proving irrefutably that you cannot depend on any promise from the flux of becoming. This is something I personally experience as one of the major issues of life. It comes up in people with whom I have been talking or writing to for some time. Unknowingly, they try to adjust their life movements in such a way that they can be with me more, have long periods of association with me, or even have their life dedicated to a certain cause which I somehow represent to them. But the certain cause is imaginary. What they are drawn to is an actual person with whom they feel a sense of security. When they begin to plan like this, I see the absurdity of it. I am, after all, a bubble that may burst at any moment. They will also burst, but they are thinking of permanent possibilities. One being that this man will live forever, or at least as long as they want him to. They don't think that this bag of gas can blow at any time. When they start planning like that, I also start planning. to get rid of them. Some of you may be thinking Nitya may get a permanent visa and be able to stay in Portland. So I think I'll also be in Portland. I might get a permanent visa for this country, but not for earthly life. That is not within the ability of any government official. Even if you promise to pay $10,000 to an attorney, he won't be able to secure a visa for me to have a permanent stay on earth. In this light, all such plans become meaningless. You base your life on hypothesis after hypothesis. But once you realize they are all hypothetical and reality lies in some other direction, you have to make an about-face and quick march. Somewhere we have to part company. It's inevitable. If not today, then tomorrow. When it comes, it can be very painful. The best thing is to part company now and continue to sit together in the waiting room a while. You have already said goodbye, but you are still sitting here visiting. But you know it's all over, that very soon we will all get up and go our separate ways. Nobody really wants to accept this truth. It is very unpleasant. You want things to go on as they are a little bit longer. You can rationalize it for a long time, but sooner or later a day comes when you have to part with everything. That parting can be effected here and now. Even when the body seems to exist, the person and the world seem to exist, or it can be postponed until it is forced upon you by the final dissolution of the body. When someone goes to a guru and asks to be initiated into the life of a renunciate, the guru will try to persuade him to continue the pattern of life he has been living, because it is not easy to turn away from one set of beliefs to another, which is the exact opposite of the beliefs embodied in the social contracts of this world. If he persists, however, he will be asked to prove that he can die. He should die when he is alive. How is this possible? Isn't it a crime to kill? Yet there is a way of killing someone without the police coming after you. A seeker has a certain name, a certain hairstyle, a kind of clothing that he likes. The Guru says, shave your head, remove your clothes, now burn your hair and clothes. Let us consider this as your cremation. He is declared dead, dead to society. Then his name is changed. He might plead, can't I keep my hair? No, you have died. That my is no longer there. When you died, along with that, your I and my also died. When the hair is burnt along with the clothes, the real smell of a human cremation comes. For 5 minutes it is horrible, because he experiences the smell of his own body burning. Then he is either cast into a pond or water is poured over him. He stands there stark naked, as he was when he came from his mother's womb. Then the Guru gives him a piece of cloth and a begging bowl. This means he does not belong to any world of contracts. He is no longer to think of making his own living. He lives by whatever comes his way. In fact, he is not even living. Life is only a pretentious thing, so he doesn't have to be serious about it. All the seriousness of life is taken away with that one stroke. Narayana Guru says it appears to be existence, but it is not. Like a mirage in a desert, it seems to be there, but isn't. After realizing this, one's existence is only that of a burnt corpse. The example is given in Vedanta of a burned rope. The charred ashes of a rope still keep the shape of the strands, but as soon as you touch them, the shape disintegrates. It looks like a rope even after it has been burnt up, but it crumbles to ashes as soon as you touch it. A sannyasin is like the burned rope. If you touch him, he goes away. His existence is a very ephemeral one, as he does not believe he exists. Was that death you had real? No, it was unreal. The new birth you had, was that real? No, that was also unreal. Your present existence, that is also unreal. Like that, the birth, existence, and death of the world you see around you is also unreal. If you doubt this, the sannyasin asks, just what is your proof there ever was a world? History books in the library. What is in those books? Some pictures and some names. What is Napoleon? A picture and a name. Hitler, a picture and a name. Stalin, a picture and a name. Jesus, the same. In one sense, they are all just words in a book. In another sense, did Christ die because he died? No. If he died, how is he influencing us even now? Did Buddha die because he died? No. He is still influencing people. What is it that persists, and what is it that is gone? Our relativistic perceptions are mostly opposed to what is true, because of the conditioning of our minds. When you are sitting on a train, it looks, for all the world, like the trees are running past you, even though you know it is the train that is running past them. Your train may be stationary, but if another train goes by or starts up next to you, you will think it is you who are moving. You feel everything very realistically, the acceleration, the jolt, the clacking of the wheels. But you are actually just sitting still. Like that, you are mentally conditioned to plans, schemes, and adjustments. To break away from all that, to have the wholesale vision of truth and accept its decree is most difficult, even for those who accept this philosophy. I had a friend in Madras, a very good scholar in Theravada Buddhism. He was fully convinced that this world is only an aggregate of impressions, that there is really nobody. There is no world or anything. They are all just aggregates of impressions. He was constantly reminding us that nothing here is permanent, that everything conjoined will be disjoined, that everything that has come to be will pass away, that all this is transient. We had many such conversations over lunch. He was a very pleasant man, friendly and happy. Then one day when I came to see him, he was in bed. He looked very moody and morose. I asked him what had happened. He wouldn't even speak. He just beckoned me to come close. Then he pointed weakly to an envelope under his pillow. I pulled it out. It was an X-ray of his chest. There was a note attached saying that he had tuberculosis, and they had found a perforation in his lungs. All his philosophy had failed him at that moment. He knew in his mind that nothing was permanent, and any moment he could go. But when the summons came, he was bewildered. He couldn't even speak. Tears were running down his cheek. I said, "What is this, Swamiji?" "It's only a medical report. Aren't you the same person who was sitting here yesterday, joking and laughing? Why should a medical report bring so much pain to you? It's only words." But then he said, "Don't you see that mark on the X-ray? That's a perforation." I said, "There are so many perforations, Swamiji." But he wouldn't buck up. Despite his philosophy, when the actual call came, he just couldn't accept it. Poor fellow, he died in a month or so, without ever regaining his equilibrium. This reminds me of some Greek stories, where the hero goes to the netherworld and is warned to not look back at all cost, because as soon as you look back, you lose heart. You become like a pillar of salt, with no strength any more. But it is very tempting to look back. all your sincerity in the spiritual search is put to the test at this point. Before arriving at the 100th verse, Narayana Guru wants us to accept this absolute stand. He is saying, "This is my real position. Do you want to come with me or not? Either way, don't touch me. I am already a burnt rope. My strands will all disappear as soon as you touch me." Can you accept that this is only a momentary arrangement? Can you accept that this is all ephemeral, without any compromise? If you can, it takes away all your burdens. You know that all your struggles are only until you wake up. When you are having a nightmare, you can sometimes realize it is only a dream, and all that you need to be finished with it and have peace is to wake up. Peace usually doesn't come during the nightmare, but you can cultivate that also. When I'm dreaming, I know I'm dreaming, but I also know it takes some time for me to get out of it. Like that, you will all wake up someday. It may be soon, or it may be after a long time. The time factor has no relevance to the clock of the Absolute. The clock of the Absolute is like the one the White Rabbit has in the Alice in Wonderland. It is blank. There is no time marked on it. The Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains have developed a theory which lets you live in this system called the world and yet mitigate, even minimize the suffering. They think whatever pain or misery you are having is the payback of the debts of your karma. When you believe that your previous karma has generated the present situation and that the present is an inevitable condition of past karma, then you feel it is meant to be. It takes away all the sense of responsibility, because how could you act any differently than what your karma compels? It takes the load off. And how about correcting your karma? There is no hurry about it, because we may have 400 million lives, and this may be around the 200 millionth. What's the rush? You can take care of it sometimes during the next 200 million lives. So this is a supposition that gives a lot of ease to their minds. It is really a pity that the Semitic religions have decided that life is only for 70 or 100 years. Whatever you want to do has to be done right now. Then you will be taken to the other side and be frozen, to sit there waiting in suspended animation for the day of judgment. But they also have a device. If you say you believe in God, God will put your name on the right side of the book, and your accounts will be settled. Probably you will even get one of the best rooms when you go there. This is another supposition. The Guru is asking you if you are willing to throw all these away as nonsense. Your karma theory, your rebirth theory, your salvation theory, your savior theory. Oh, that's very difficult. If you find it to be difficult, you are not fit for this study. If you opt for it, you should make a summary dismissal of everything as phenomenal. Does it exist? Yes, it exists, in the way a mirage exists. It has just that much existence. It seems to be so. Nobody stops you from looking at a mirage and making your own fantasies about it. All the great poets and writers have known this secret. But if you are taking this study seriously, you should first experience your death and then come to understand that birth and death are irrelevant. When Fritz Perls said to die and to be born again is not an easy thing, he was right. To die to the conditionings, to die to the suppositions, to die to the fabrications of the theories, and to remain beyond the transitoriness of everything, without a name or a form, without any promise, and without anything to hold on to, is very difficult. But it is also inevitable. In the long run, you don't have a choice. There is another way of not accepting what the Guru is saying. You can stand with Sartre and say, this is nauseating. This is it, but it makes me sick. This is terrible. You are just helpless, and your existence is just the recognition of your anguish. If you can express the misery of your life, the dread and helplessness of it, that's all. That's all there is. So which is better? Either you can be in Sartre's camp and say everything is dreadful and then vomit, or you can join Narayana Guru's philosophy and forget your name and form. In between, there are no schools. You can turn to any school, Taoist, Zen, Buddhist, Mahayana, Christian, Muslim, Vedantic. Wherever you go, there is a magic circle. If you want to enter into any of them, you have to deny everything else. Jesus was a very loving person, so you might say, I'll be with him. Then he shows you his crown of thorns and his cross and says, deny yourself first. Who? Me? Yeah, if you want to follow me. In the previous verse, Narayana Guru showed us the 5 aspects of the phenomenal world in which we place ourselves. So we know he is well aware of the nature and structure of that world. He also told us the secret of all these is one. To pass on to that oneness, you have to forfeit the reality of all the 5 factors. You have to forfeit what you call the great goal of life. You have to forfeit the world of action. You have to forfeit all the little impressions that you have gathered in the form of awareness or knowledge. You have to forfeit the world of percepts. You have to forfeit all the interests of life. Then alone do you come to the Absolute. That means you cease to be. You cease to be in the absolute sense, not in the relative sense. Absolutely, you were not, even previously. You continue to be what that was, or what that alone is. You come to this not through any argument in your mind. It comes as an act of recognition, factual recognition. Think of a day when a man's mother was fondling him in her lap as her child, thinking about his future. Now he is sitting here, and where is his mother? They are just like any 2 people. Is she now capable of putting him through any programs she likes, as she probably did when he was 2 years old? No. Things have their meaning and apparent consistency during small situations, and those situations pass on. A small child wrote, "You are the apple and I am the seed. I will follow the ways of my mother through all my life." Is it true? That's what she thinks now. Did her mother follow her mother all through? Were they not also an apple and a seed? When young lovers meet, they also whisper to each other, "We will never part. I give you all my love. You are my only one." Very good, if those promises can hold true for even one lifetime. But there is no way you can extend them to the next life. You have to push aside everything relative. Afterwards, you can again sit there, but you will feel all the difference. It is a bit like an ex-wife coming back as a good friend. You can be friends then, because there is a lot of detachment after all the previous attachment. You will clearly know the difference between the 2 experiences. Like that, you ask the Supreme Attorney to arrange for a separation from this world, from all this relativism, and to effect your divorce. Then afterwards, you can come back and live as a friend to the world of relativism. That makes you an asanga, an unattached person. And the free translation of verse 78 is as follows: "There is neither death nor birth, nor any manifested form of life. There are neither men nor gods nor anything of that sort. All of them are only names and forms. Their substance is only that of a desert mirage, and that is, for sure, no substance at all.